Attention!
The Prince Albert Challenge Cup for student coxed fours. Deerfield Academy USA on the buck station in the light vests, and Newcastle University on the Berkshire station furthest from us.
Attention! Go!
So a strong getaway, particularly I think from Newcastle, who are straight and purposeful and generating speed, quite substantial speed early on, though Deerfield, who looked a little more laboured immediately off their station, have themselves accelerated impressively also.
No holding back from either crew, definitely off the start. I mean, you can see the sort of straining in the faces as well. They are putting everything in. I think they both realise actually that, you know, this is going to be a tough one, and they've got to bring their best. They've got to start off and they've got to try and get ahead and get some dominance. Deerfield will of course be really kind of spurred on by the fact that their 8 has just gone through really strongly this afternoon. You know, they're in good form, they're coming, you know, when you get several crews coming from abroad, they want to make their mark on the regatta. Equally, Newcastle up and coming, super strong programme, not up and coming, established now. And we saw their 8 racing strongly as well yesterday. So, you know, both got something to prove that they want to be here longer than Thursday.
Well, they both actually had fabulous races themselves yesterday to reach this stage of the Prince Albert Challenge Cup. Really terrific win for Deerfield over Trinity College Dublin in a very tight race, won by 5 feet in a time a second shy of 7 minutes. And Newcastle were pleased to beat the Université de Lyon quite comfortably in their case by 2 1/4 lengths in a time just beyond 7 minutes, though easing up. And actually this has been a strong competition this year based on yesterday's results for the North East in general. Durham University have an A and a B crew amongst the last 8 as well.
Absolutely, and you can see now Newcastle, that kind of fitness of their programme. We've heard so much about how their Italian coach really trains them, you know, hard. It's a full-on fitness programme for those guys, and that's already showing. You know, they're also a bit cleaner. I think coming out of the start, both were full power. There's a little more raggedness in that Deerfield crew, and so I think, you know, we're seeing Newcastle just, you know, edging away now, really, both on fitness and on technique.
Yeah, reaction to yesterday. Well, the coaches said we're going to go into every race as if it is the final, and that of course isn't a bad attitude to take. It certainly prevents any complacency in the crew. To take every opponent as seriously as the last, or potentially the next, is important. Indeed, perhaps not even to contemplate the next, simply to stay in the moment and to get each race won.
There's a good rhythm there in the Newcastle crew. You can see they've settled into that rhythm, and I think just coming out the start, you know, both definitely went off as if it was their final, but just coming out, they found that rhythm a bit sooner, and it's giving them extra run per stroke. They've got that length per stroke, and that's really starting to tell. So I don't know if Deerfield have got anything extra they can do at this point, but it looks now that the technique and the fitness is definitely superior in that Newcastle crew.
I'm just reading some of the quotes that the young oarsmen in the Newcastle crew have afforded us, and I guess typical of people of his type, the man in the bow, Bill News, says what an honour it is to be racing at such an amazing event. I feel I'm finally able to express myself as a sports person, and what better place to express oneself as an athlete than this. There's a super picture of Alex Turner, the Newcastle Cox, tucked in and with a relatively straightforward task at the moment. There is not a steering issue. There's a ripple or two, but there is clear water in favour of Newcastle.
That bowman, of course, has a wider athletic experience than just rowing. He's a junior fencer and has competed internationally at swing ball. So, you know, that's not something most rowers talk about. You know, doing any sports with balls. So, as it were, interesting sporting experience. But I mean, you know, it is actually, you can see at Newcastle they're attracting people into that rowing programme because it's an exciting programme to be part of. It's a great crew. Look at that.
Clearly, it is a growing phenomenon, rowing at Newcastle University. Their results prove as much. 3 of this crew were silver medalists in the Championship Coxforce at the BUCS Regatta. Went on to finish second at Marlow in the same category. They're gathering experience, and they're gathering ground actually here, stroke by stroke. They are in a very comfortable position with a terrific view of their near certainly beaten opponents here at the Deerfield Academy, who, at least having made the journey across the Atlantic, were able to get one victory under their collective belt. But here, it seems, is where it's going to end.
So the Newcastle crew have had experience of Henley in their pre-university days, in their schoolboy days, so I think they'll be pretty excited to be back and in such a strong crew, and it looks like they're heading through to Friday.
Where they will take on either Colgate University, another United States entrant, or the B crew from Durham University. Durham A and B on either side of the draw. They can't meet till the final. What a final that would be. But Newcastle may find themselves in a bit of a derby against their near neighbours from Durham University on semi-final day.
For them, the challenge now is to sort of really practice their rhythm for tomorrow. Of course, they've got to put this race to bed. They've got to make sure nothing strange happens. There are no kind of extra pushes from Deerfield, but I think they've got everything covered. And for them, it's conserving energy, but also reinforcing the rhythm, so that, you know, the Cox will be making sure they're on top of their technique, you know, relaxing as much as possible. And part of this is putting this race to bed, but also embedding the rhythm that they have, that will, you know, they'll need to have under greater pressure in the next days.
It looks as though it is going to end, though, for Deerfield, whose Cox said yesterday that this wasn't the last piece of the season. It's been the longest post-season in Deerfield history, he says. We didn't want it to end today. Well, it didn't end yesterday, but I'm afraid it is into its last 15 or 20 seconds now, because this most impressive Newcastle University 4 is coming up towards the finishing line, more or less unchallenged, and certain to progress now to the last 4 of the Prince Albert Challenge Cup. Newcastle University, and in a growing and impressive programme which is bearing fruit, race on race, regatta on regatta, month on month and year on year. Newcastle University, another tick in another box. And Deerfield Academy follow them home. It's Newcastle who go forward.